welcome back to another video. So today we're looking at part 2 of language development. I'll drop a link down below to part 1 should you wish to check that out, because it covers a lot of the fundamentals that we'll be going over today. So let's start with syntactic development. Syntax is the rules which allows the organisation of words into larger structures. Using the finite set of words in our vocabulary, we can use grammar to put together an infinite number of sentences and express an infinite number of ideas. By 5 years of age, children have mastered the basic grammar of their native language, whether this is spoken or manually signed. So how do children learn to produce sentences? Through syntactic production. In English, children begin to produce hollow phrases. For example, rote-learned chunks such as what at, all gone, alongside their first words. By 24 months, the majority of English-speaking children are producing at least 2 word combinations that have been described as telegraphic speech because non-essential items and elements are missing. For example, read me, mummy tea, or tickle daddy. By 24 months, the majority of English-speaking children are also asking lots of questions. And by 30 months, most children are starting to use a range of basic sentence types. For example, negation, I not got shoes, modifying phrases, for example, want bunny on bath, and imperatives, show it. Gradually, children start to include more morphemes. For example, instead of saying read me, this turns to read to me. Instead of mummy tea, it turns to mummy's tea. And instead of tickle daddy, it turns to I tickling daddy. By 4 years, all are typically proficient in comprehension of a range of abstract semantic concepts, such as first or last, above or below, and before and after. There is also fluency with a range of sentence frames, such as it was broken by Tom, or why did you break it, rather than why you broke it. They are also using a range of connectives appropriately. For example, but or because or so are connectives that they will use within sentences. There is also structural comprehension of lengthy oral discourse. Let's now look at pragmatics. So what are pragmatics? Pragmatics are how language is used and interpreted in a contextually appropriate manner for the purpose of social interaction. If something is contextually appropriate, this is adapting to what your listener knows and using the appropriate language register. For the purpose of social interaction, this is conversation, gossip, jokes, relaying past events, and so on. There is an interaction between the structural language that is used and the social cognition through theory of mind. So developing pragmatic skills include using the right expression to refer to something, for example, choosing between he versus the dog versus the spotty dog. Understanding inferences, so for example, if a child said, can I have an ice cream, and the adult said, dinner's nearly ready, and being able to talk in different registers, for example, the way you would talk to a friend versus in a job interview. 2, 3, and 4-year-olds often refer in a way that is ambiguous from their addressee's perspective. For example, they might point to something their addressee can't see, or refer to something with pronouns, for example, he or it, even though their addressee doesn't know who he is. Children are often underinformative up until the ages of 7 or 8 years, and this was shown by Deutsch and Penchman in 1982, and Lloyd and Barman in 1987. Within pragmatic development, there is also the ability to repair utterances when the listener is confused. There is some evidence from 24 months by Gallagher in 1977, but this is seen to continue to develop throughout the preschool years. So let's break down by months a summary of language acquisition. So the basic form of language, so your phonology of your own language, is established by approximately 9 months. Understanding some word meanings is between 10 to 12 months. Producing words happens between 12 to 24 months, and syntactic acquisition can be broken down into word combining, which is typically around 24 months, a range of sentence frames, which is typically around 30 months. There is also pragmatic acquisition, so the conversational skills start to develop around 24 months, but then the appropriate use of linguistic reference continues to develop through their primary school years. And for review, see Graff and Davies in 2014. There are some factors which influence language development. So firstly, the quantity of language that is inputted into a child, and then also the quality of language that that child receives. So in terms of quantity of language input, adults vary hugely when they talk to children in terms of how many words they say per hour, how many sentences they say, and how long their sentences are. This variance in the quantity of language predicts child vocabulary development, processing speed, and is even indirectly related to standardized tests of language and nonverbal IQ longitudinally. This was seen by Marchman and Fernand in 2008 and Hurtado, Marchman and Fernand in 2008. This is also true for teachers and children in their classes, so it isn't just extrapolated to family and friends. In terms of quality of language input, there is a likely role for the caregiver contingent talk in explaining variance, which is otherwise attributed to others. Child-directed speech that is contingent on infant's focus of attention in terms of meaning about what the infant is attending to and in terms of timing in response to infant vocalization. Let's now look at contingent talk. So child-directed speech that is contingent on the infant's focus of attention can be semantically, so this is about what the infant is attending to, or temporally in response to infant vocalization. There is also the role of interaction. So language without interaction, an example of this would be a TV, and children between 2.5 to 3 can learn words from TV if someone live is sitting beside them helping to describe what they are viewing on the TV. This was studied by Roseberry, Hirsch-Pesk, Parrish, Morris and Golinkoff in 2009. So if we want to look at the cognitive systems that are involved in the brain when someone's learning a language, your auditory and visual system match what you hear to what you see. Your memory system will remember what you hear and see. Your attention system will pay attention to what other people are saying. Your inferencing system will interpret the message. And your processing system will link words to their meaning. So talking to children is crucial. We cannot forget that human communication is a two-way thing which relies, at least in part, on the child's social cognitive skills, however. So the onus of responsibility isn't just placed upon parents. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for listening.